Okay, so from what I hear, you are a duo that own TaylorMade Realty based in Atlanta, and you work with buyers and sellers and offer them property management services, and you have a real estate school.
Yes. Mhm.
Okay, can you tell me more about that school?
The name of our school is Cutting Edge Institute Worldwide,
Okay.
and we provide all the required education that's required by the Real Estate Commission. So we teach pre-license for anyone that's interested in entering into the industry doing real estate. So that gets them prepared to go sit for the state license and get their license to become real estate agents. We also offer a post-license class, which is required by law too. Within your first year, you have to do 25 hours of post-license education. And then to keep our license, we have to do 36 hours of continuing education every license period.
Really? How long does a license period usually last?
4 years here in Georgia, so it varies from state to state.
Oh, okay.
But Georgia
Okay.
licenses are good for 4 years.
In Georgia. Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, I was looking. I was looking at the website. You guys have a lot of homes. What's it like the real estate game? Because in California, cost of living is absurd, and I'm based out of California. So, what's the cost of living generally like on average there when it comes to home ownership in Georgia and Atlanta?
Yeah. Georgia is one of the few states still in the South that's fairly affordable to enter into. So I would say for someone entering in initially, about a 150 to 185. A homeowner really could get
Wow.
buy a home, an entry level home below 200,000. And then you have what we would call someone who maybe is that intermediate buyer. Maybe they're on their second or third home, and that would probably place them somewhere in the mid twos to fours. So Georgia's a pretty affordable market.
It's funny you say that. I know that currently, with everything going on, a lot of people are considering migrating to other parts of the country for various reasons, obvious reasons. And I was wondering if you had any advice you could offer someone who's considering maybe looking for a place to move to, a state to move to, and why you would make the case for Atlanta based on all the work that you do.
Yeah, I think Atlanta, number one, is a great market for anyone looking for jobs. You have a lot of companies that are headquartered here. You have Home Depot, major headquarters, Equifax. So I think that the opportunity for jobs are great. Also, the price of living.
Right.
So again, you can take someone coming in on maybe an entry level position into an Equifax or a Home Depot. They can come in and easily buy in this market. Particularly people migrating from California or New York, they're in two different ball games, especially if they've owned homes prior to and happen to have sold in their market. They typically come here and they are like blown away by
I'm
what they
sure.
can afford.
We
A
live in
lot of
shoe
times,
boxes out here.
yes. A lot of times we have clients who will come, nurses, doctors who may even come from California, moving here. They might have sold their home and they almost will be able to pay cash for the homes here and
Wow.
probably double their square footage.
Wow. So in that case, there's something that's happening where a lot of people who are looking to buy homes don't know anything about buying a home, what the first step is, what they need to prepare. Let's start brass tacks. Let's say there's somebody, they've got a corporate job and they're going to be relocated. Let's say there's a headquarters out in Atlanta, and what do they need to know about how to prepare to buy a home?
Yeah, I would say number one is savings, having your money, your down payment correct and having it right. I think credit is the second one that I would look at. And then last, but income. But number one, you have to be able to play in that game and you have to have a down payment. It's very few products that don't require a down payment. Um, Take FHA, they require 3.5% down. So that's not a lot, but you still
Right.
have to have money to put down. Something in the traditional sense of conventional lending will require 20% down.
Right. Right.
Yeah, so we find typically new homeowners or first time home buyers, they would typically use that FHA product, but you still have to have the money. And that 3.5% does not include your closing costs. So your closing cost is normally anywhere between, I say, 3 to 6% the purchase price of the home. So they essentially, the lowest I would say they need to have set aside is close to 10%.
Okay. 10% gets you in the door, but then there's still closing costs and other things you have to take into
Yeah,
consideration.
yeah, 10% gets you in the door. The right way to do it would typically have 20%. You really want to have about 20% set aside before you look at home ownership. However, some don't. The realistic factor for a lot of people is that many won't have that amount of money saved.
Sure.
But the good thing is there are first-time home buyer programs too that offer assistance to people that are entering into the market as first-time home buyers. So they're paying down some of the monies that they would have to have had saved. So depending on if you've never owned a home before, you could qualify for one of the down payment assistance programs for first-time buyers.
Yeah.
And this is through the state, through a bank. Where's the assistance program? I'm sorry, I don't think I caught that. What the assistance program?
So here in Georgia, each county offer different programs for first-time home buyers. So if you're buying in Clayton, they have a program. If you're buying in Fulton, they have a program.
So
the
each
city
county
of Atlanta have
okay.
a program. So each one of these counties have their own programs trying to entice people to move into their county to offer down payment assistance to first-time home buyers.
And the city of Atlanta is really big on their down payment assistance programs. Sometimes a homeowner could potentially get $20,000 to $30,000 towards their actual down payment, which is a nice piece of change.
That's a huge incentive. That's a huge incentive. Making dreams come true incentives.
Yeah, it is.
Wow. Have you had any obstacles you faced, like running the school and also doing the realty side of things, which is the transactions with both sellers and buyers that you've faced recently? And did you do anything that you didn't think you would have to do to overcome that?
The one thing for the school with the virus,
Yeah.
all my live classes became webinars instead of meeting in person. So that was new for me because I have a high touch. I like to touch and be around my students and teach that way. So I had to adapt to getting used to teaching via webinars. So that was one of my biggest obstacles. And then getting all of the classes set up and transferred over onto a webinar platform versus a live platform.
Yeah,
but it's working well.
That brings me to the next point I wanted to talk about. Technology, I'm sure has changed the game so much. It used to be, I mean, I've heard that the ones who want to learn how to get into the real estate business don't understand how the basics are always a thing you go back to. That being said, technology has definitely changed things, not removed the basics, but changed things.
Yes.
Can you tell me a little bit more about how that changed it for you from your perspective?
For me, since I'm very old school and I like to talk on the phone.
Preach, tell them.
I'm very old school, like talking on the phone. So I had to educate myself on being able to text. And people respond to texts and they don't respond to phone calls. So that was something that I had to learn, and I had to embrace texting as a form of communication, even though it's not my preferable style of communication.
It's millennials.
Exactly. So I've gotten used to it now, and it works. So, but you have to stay current. I always refer to this book called "Who Moved My Cheese."
I love it. I love it. I'm so glad you brought it up. What a good book. It's simple, but profound.
Yes. So it's about that. You got to stay current. You got to keep up with it. Where change comes, you got to learn how to adapt and adjust to it. So we've been able to do that.
Yeah.
We've been able to do that.
Yeah. And we also run, a lot of our business is around property management. And so having to adjust to an industry that is still very much high touch. And technology was the biggest piece. Having software in place that could, our tenants can text us. They can put in work orders from their palm of their hand. They can pay their rent from from the palm of their hand. I can send my vendors out to a property just by sending them an email through our software. So it's played a major role, I think, on all of our businesses, even inside the traditional sales, as well as the property management side.
That's huge. I do know, as myself a renter, I do come across. I always get giddy whenever I move into a place that actually lets me pay rent through the website or whatever application they may have running, as opposed to having to go all the way out to grab a money order. And I know cash is king, but nobody
But
carries cash anymore. No.
no, no. And having those things in place, even a software that's on the cutting edge, meaning that they now have realized that some people have walked away from traditional bank accounts and have started using things such as Cash App and accepting those. So, it's really important to find technology partners that are forward thinking, I think, in your industry and how you can utilize that to service your client.
That's that's huge. Oh, I think we lost you. Oh, there you go. All right.
Yeah, okay, there we go.
No worries, no worries. And have you ever looked at how social media plays a role? Is it a non-factor for your business, or is it something that you're working on, or have you excelled?
So that's a great, great question, right? So for people who are typically, this is the funny dynamic between us. My mother is old school, but I'm a little bit of old school too. So social media has
Okay.
been one of those things that we have fought for a long time. So to answer your question, yes, it is something we've come around to, right? Because you have to get with the time. Who moved my
Who moved
cheese?
my cheese?
Yeah, right. But at the same time, we have not neglected some of those old school practices of having warm leads and referrals and word of mouth. In fact, I would say our business has probably almost doubled in size in probably the last 2 years. And
Really?
really, I would say most of that has been during this season of COVID.
Yes.
That's
Um,
amazing.
and that has come from really word of mouth and just always striving towards that excellence with our clientele and asking them, opening up our mouths and asking for that business.
You know,
And
it's. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
one of the things for me is people, when they know you care and when you give them and provide excellent service, it's just automatic that they refer you because they've had such a great experience with you. So that's one of our practices, to make everyone feel special and have a great experience in interacting, whether it be in the school, whether it be the property management, or whether we're selling. No matter what arena we're operating from, it's always about the person first and having them have a good experience. And therefore, we have huge, large volumes of referrals from past clients.
I see. You bring a real human experience to your business. It's not just about the dollar for you.
No,
No, absolutely not.
no.
Yeah, that
We've,
was
in
awesome.
fact, yeah. I think that's one of the models that we kind of, I learned from my mother early on, when I transitioned to really the sales world. And she said, all business is not good business and all business is not worth having.
Hmm.
And so it was a principle that, we've stood by. And we've turned down money, we've turned down clients, we've turned down property management clients. We just because they did not share the same vision of how we think people who are happen to be tenants should be treated. So that's one of the things that we think we have a unique approach because we understand how to toe that line with your client who is your tenant and also offering them great customer service, but also looking at your bottom line. And I think both can coexist. For so long, people think it has to be one or the other, but really you can have great customer service, you can be focused on your tenant, and you can still have a great bottom line.
See, I love that because it is true. A lot of people will put the bottom line first. And I mean, you need money to run a business. People could volunteer and you still need money to run the
Yeah.
business. So for me, it's like, okay, so you must have an amazing team. Is it just you two because you run a school and you have a property management company and you're constantly working with buyers and sellers? Do you have a team?
Yes, we have a team and we have a
A
wonderful,
wonderful
a
team. We have a
wonderful
wonderful
team
team.
who upholds the vision as well. So we
And
have agents who work with us on the sales side and as well as property managers who work with us there and instructors.
do you guys hold like meetings and sort of get together? What's the culture like with you guys? Do you guys have a ritual you guys go through?
It's really, I would say we're very close knit and family
Family.
oriented
Okay.
when it comes to that. We extend that to the people who work with us as well. They feel like family. And we really focus on building that culture with the open door policy there. Um, that family culture there, and we really care about our employees, and we want them to feel that. We want to celebrate their birthdays, we want to know when they're going to have a baby, we want to celebrate their anniversaries. We do lunches out together just to kind of talk and powwow. When we do our office meetings, we have breakfast so that everyone can, have a good time. So we
Yeah.
are focused on that. But that has also, we have a strong team that knows how to get the job done. And so we don't have to micromanage, and we get to really celebrate and empower them to do their job.
So
Right.
yeah, it's letting them know that you trust them and you give them some opportunities to be creative in what they're doing, because we have a lot of smart people working for us. They're brilliant.
Yeah.
So they bring all of that to the table, and so we're open to listen. It's not just here's the rules, here's the guidelines.
Right.
We are open to have their expertise be contributed to how we do things.
In fact, I think we look for it. We kind of look for people who are smarter than us in certain areas. We look for that, and
No,
and
I love
understand how
that.
we can utilize that. Yeah.
It makes so much sense. A lot of people tend to, especially who have only ever been employees, tend to come from the ilk of, oh, well, I'm smarter, I should be the boss. And it's like, well, the boss hired you because you're smarter. That nobody's going to pay somebody who they're smarter than,
Yes.
A lot of people don't get that. No, that's awesome. It's good to hear you guys have a culture where it's not so top down and that's the way it is, and it's very lateral and like open to things. I think that explains a lot. You basically break the rules and you get rewarded for it, because you would normally work in a company where it's like this is the way it is and that's the bottom line. But because you break the rules, it looks like it doubled your business during COVID.
Yeah, yeah. And they've helped us grow our business, to be honest. The level of expertise on now what we say we can offer and what they have as a skill set, when we go to the table to negotiate deals, it speaks volumes for us. And
Mm,
so we definitely value that. We do.
that's huge. So the transition to working from home then was something that happened very naturally for you, or was it always, because I know
uh,
Well,
still working on it.
my background, I was in corporate America for years.
Okay.
I worked for Motorola for 15 years. So I worked for a company. So that was a transition for me, to transition from being in a corporate environment to me being the person that's in charge, even though I was in management positions
Sure.
in the companies that I worked for. It was taking on a new path as being the runner and developing and coming up with what we needed to do to have our business succeed.
Oh yeah, that's a different role. Yeah.
It was a different role. So that once I got into that position, it was easy. And having Moira come on board, Moira's background, she came in the industry as a mortgage broker.
Okay.
So she used to have her own mortgage broker. And so we used to do business that way with each other when she was a broker and I was a real estate agent at the time. So then the market crashed. And so once the market crashed, it's about being diverse too in what you do. We became home counselors to help people save their homes from foreclosure. So we became HUD approval counselors. So we've worked in kind of much all the arenas in real estate. So we have a lot of different experiences all about real estate. And it's all been about helping people too.
Yeah.
Everything that we've become a part of, it's about helping other people. So it's just been a natural I knew I always wanted my own real estate brokerage firm, but Moira took it to a different level. She said, well, Mama, we need to deal with commercial. We need to deal with this. So she took my vision and expanded it because she knew where we needed to be in order to grow this business and have it be a viable business.
And I think also we shifted, all that to say, we shift. We shift whenever it is needed to survive in this market. And I think like a lot of people who have found a way to succeed during this COVID season have learned how to shift very easy, whether it's working from home or whether they need to realign their team or get new technology in place. We always say that a crisis is an opportunity. And so even back in when the market kind of crashed during that period of really 2007, 2008, those dark days, they felt dark, but now these are dark days too with COVID. But like she said, we shifted. We became HUD-approved counselors. We did foreclosure prevention. We went on to carry REO properties and list with Fannie and Freddie. And so we've learned how to maneuver. And so now, yes, our team does work from home, but again, we're in an industry that is high touch. So we have leasing offices that we're responsible for being at because tenants are counting on us to still be able to service them during this time. Even during COVID, what do you tell someone if their AC went out in the middle of the summer, that you're not coming to service them because of COVID, or that your refrigerator is out and you have a family of 4, we're not going to service you? So we've had to learn how to adapt. So yes and no, we do work from home, but we're essential personnel. We still have to be out there on some lines of our business.
No, it sounds like everything you do is for the people that you serve, and that's got to be such a great feeling to be able to say you make a living helping other people in a real way, which is different because there's a lot of people out there in business who are only making money just to make money, and not even by
Yeah.
choice. They just don't know how to get to their why, their how that path, and it
That's
just
it.
seems so natural for you. So you guys definitely highly recommend for family to work together. You guys don't ever get on
uh,
each other's nerves.
so
Yeah, we don't say never, but never.
we won't say never, but one of the great things is that I wouldn't trade it. For me, I wouldn't
Yeah.
trade it for the world. And so I think the number one thing to working with family is boundaries and respect. And so I understand that this is my mother. She will always be my mother. In our work environment, some people choose not to call their mother mother in a work environment. I hold the utmost respect for my mother, so she will still be called mom
That's
or
right.
mother and,
Excuse me.
and in business meetings. So yeah, if this offends you, I'm sorry, but I'm not going to disrespect my mother on any level, even inside of business. And I think years ago, we were at a conference and I heard something very profound, and I'm trying to remember the woman who shared that. That was Kathy Hughes, and she shared about how do you balance, family and career. And she said, you don't balance family and career. Family is always first. And so it's one of those things I was like, man, people say a lot of things that sound great, but when you get down to the meat of it, the execution of it, or what it really may mean, it's like, it's not a both and. It's something has to be sacrificed. And so that really hit me like, you know what, it's not even a debate. Family comes first. And so I think we've treaded that line that even in our professional role, we'll still respect one another. She's still my mother, but she respects my opinions, and that in business as well. So we've learned to work with one another and we trust one another. I wouldn't trust anybody else with my money
Sure.
except for my mom.
Sure. Sure.
And then one thing too, I had to, for me, learn to value what Moira value. I'm a workaholic, so I don't have any downtimes or limits. And Moira, on the other hand, she wants to work from whatever the business hours are. So if I try to talk business to her after hours,
that's like, the boundary setting right there.
So she set those boundaries and made them pretty clear. Even though I tried to cross them, she stayed with it. So I learned to respect it. Give her her time. She needs her time, and she's not like you to work all the time. That's a
Work-life
disadvantage
balance.
from working at home. For me, it's because I can never shut down. If I can go and walk over to my office, then I can work anytime. And that's a problem. That's something that I had to work on just because of how I'm made up. But she knows how to, when she's home, and she can shut it down between the business hours and the work hours. So.
Yeah, there's a growing push towards mindfulness and creating that space. And then it's true, I know I come, I'm half Mexican, half French, and my father workaholic. It's work is work is work, and that's what I do. What am I gonna do? Stay home? So I get it. I trust me, I get it. It's a generational thing, but I'm super inspired to see that you've been able to respect each other's differences, make a profit, change people's lives, and do something that you love doing and
Yes.
succeed at it.
Yes.
You broke
Yeah,
all the
it's
rules.
and it's fun to do something you like. You
Yeah.
know, it's you're working, but it's not like working because
Right.
you're enjoying what you do. We love renovating. I love teaching, so I love talking and getting people to understand the importance of what they do. So it's just like I'm just having an everyday conversation, even though it's providing something someone else needs. But I'm enjoy doing it because I like sharing like that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Well, a lot of business is networking, right? So to close things out, because we're getting close to that time now. A lot of business is networking. Is there anybody in particular in your line of business that you would love to meet? Because you never know who's listening, right? So
Mm.
it's yeah. It's think about it, right? When you're out there networking, it's all about you know who. Let me introduce you to so and so. So who is that? Because you never know who's listening.
So, two people who I would love to meet. One are the Property Brothers. I think that I love the show, The Property Brothers. Their concept that they've come out with the rental properties too. I like them. Tom Ferry is another one who's very big inside of real estate and a marketing guru. So I think there's a lot to learn to just spend like 30 minutes picking his brain.
Okay,
Uh, so yeah.
for
that's
me,
huge.
Chip and Joanna, and they're no longer on doing the renovation, but I just loved her style and how she did things
And the price points.
and the price points that she that they were able to
Everything was
come up with.
affordable.
And
Okay.
that's it for me that I would just can think of.
Gary Keller was one of them too.
Oh, I used to work at Keller Williams, so yeah, I used to go to all of they call it family reunions, their meetings
Ah,
annually. So those were great people that you got to meet. They always had someone wonderful for us to meet and interact with at
right.
their conferences. Mhm.
Well, that's great. If you're listening, listen, they're looking to meet up, you know. And if I ever run into them or happen to book them on this show, I'll make the effort to
Yes,
make sure the introduction is made because that's how business works.
that's right. That's
Yes,
right.
yes.
To close it out, if there was anyone who was young and interested in real estate, or somebody who might be young and also wants to sell their home, or what advice would you give them?
Um, I would say to be your biggest cheerleader. You've got to get in your head, and you've got to empower yourself, and you've got to figure out how you I would say can work past being motivated. I think that's one of the biggest things that we've had to learn is despite how we feel, that we still execute what needs to be done for the day. And that's one of the biggest things. How do you move even when you're not motivated to move at that time? So many people wait on that moment when I feel like doing it or to be inspired. And so sometimes you execute just because it lines up with the plan and learning to execute the plan. That's one of the things that has really supported me, especially in a generation that really pushes self-help, self-empowerment. But one of the things that I think that's not spoken about is, well, how do I move when I don't feel like it? And how do I get things done?
Yeah. For me, I would recommend a mentor.
Mhm.
Mentors are worth their weight in gold. And if you can just study under someone that's an expertise and have the skill sets that you're looking after and they're willing to pour into you, that would be very valuable for anyone starting out.
Okay. I love it. Well, Renee, Maura, this has been an absolute pleasure. And I can't wait until the next time we get a chance to talk. Thank you so much for all the advice, wisdom, and soul and love that you brought to this episode. When this
Thank
is
you.
ready, I'll be sure to share it with you guys. And again, if I ever run into the names you dropped, I'll make sure to make the introductions.
Yes, thank
Thank
you. And
you.
thank you for having us.
Yes, my pleasure. All right, you guys have a great night.
All
You
right,
too.
you too.
Okay,
Bye bye.
bye.